Sunshines, it's Mo. All right, so in this video, we're going to continue our series on God is, who are we? And I'm in a new setup here. I have been through so many transitions since I moved to Chicago. If you have not seen my last video on all of the updates in my life right now, please check up top at the cards, and also in all of the playlists, my latest video after this one that's coming up. So today we are going to talk about God is our source and our rock. These I use interchangeably because that's really what the Lord was giving me in this week as I've been going through a lot of transitions, as I said, and just so many different pieces are moving and just trying to continue my devotion with the Lord and just being in his presence and just enjoying him and enjoying the things that he has brought into my life. It has been difficult to just be in the moment and to just I feel like so many things are moving and I just don't feel very stable, feel very settled. And I know those things will change, but in these moments, the Lord has been speaking to me and reminding me that he is my source and that he is my rock, and everything that I need is in him. So without further ado, let's get right into it, all right? So when you think about a rock, a natural rock, you think about there's so many different uses for a rock. It can be used as a weapon if you throw it. It can be used if you rub two rocks together, it can create a fire. If you stack them on top of each other, you can make a house, or you can make a place of refuge. If you mix them around with water, the water will become purified and mineralized, you know? So there's so many different uses for a rock. And I think that that's the reason why God repeatedly says about himself that he is our rock. That is why David in the Psalms and in Proverbs testify of God being our rock and our source. So in his divine nature, he has so many different abilities and so many different ways that he helps us. He is our helper. He is our advocate. He is our counselor. He is our refuge. He is our protection. He is everything that we need. And in him is everything that we need. So with that is why he is our rock. That is why he is our rock, because he is everything that we need, you know? And when you think about a source, like a power source, right, of electricity, if an item is not plugged into the source, it will not have the power to do the things that it was called to do. In the same way, when we are not plugged into the Lord in seeking him and desiring him and communing with him, we will not be able to operate in the way that he has called us to. I'm reminded of a sermon I was listening to by Derek Prince, I believe, who was speaking about this very thing in essence, that when we are not plugged into the Lord, when we do not present our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto Christ, which is our reasonable service, right? In Romans 12 in 1 and 2, or 1, it talks about that, and it says that without, what he was saying is that without presenting our bodies, presenting ourselves to the Lord to be used by him, then we will never know our purpose and the will of God that is for our lives. So we must connect to the source in order to find out what he desires for our lives and what he has purpose for us to do. So long as we are not connected to the source, just like electricity, we will not be able to connect to the very destiny and the purpose that he has created us for. So some scriptures that come to mind is Psalm 54 verses 4-5. It says, "Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is with those who uphold my life. He will repay my enemies for their evil. Cut them off in your truth." So this is David speaking about his enemies and about how God is our helper. God is our rock. God is our refuge. And I like the part where it talks about the Lord is with those who uphold my life. So God, who is our source, we have to talk about those other things that are not God, right? And the thing that the Lord was telling me is that God is my source and everything else is a resource, meaning that just like David is saying here in Psalm 54, God is with those who uphold our lives. So those who enforce and reinforce and encourage us in the things of the Lord, they are a resource to us. They are beneficial. They are good for us, right? But they lead us to the source, right? There are resources, a bunch of resources that the Lord provides for us and allows us to have. Money, for instance, family, friends, a church home and a church leadership, right? He gives us jobs, right? Even in the Bible days, people had jobs. So it just shows me that God, in being our source, that he allows resources to assist us in the things that he calls us to do. But what happens when we treat a resource like a source? What happens? Only God can fulfill his place and his positioning in our lives as our source. But when we put people, put things, put circumstances, put materials in our lives that are meant to help us and lead us to the Lord, when we put those things as a source, as the reason why we live, as our purpose, as an idol, really, because no one can be God but God. So everything else is a resource. Everything else, if it's used incorrectly, or if it is worshipped as a god, then it is therefore idolatry. So when we do that, what happens? Not only will we be devoid or depraved of God giving us power and allowing the power of God to flow through us, we will allow these things and put these things as our God. So we're saying in our hearts and in our minds that, Lord, I don't need you, but I only need this thing. I only need this person. I only need this particular entity of life, right? And when we do that, we are putting a responsibility on things and on people that was never supposed to be in their court or in their responsibility. For instance, when we put a relationship, say a significant other, in the place of God in our lives, we are saying, God, I don't want you, or I don't need you, but I only need this person. So this person being in their nature, having their flesh, which is prone to disappointment, prone to failure, prone to making mistakes and being sinful. We are putting so much weight into this person that we deprave ourselves from the true and living God. And we are setting ourselves up not only for disappointment, but we are setting ourselves up for demise, because a person or even a situation or even a material thing is not meant to take the place of God. It is meant to lead us to God. So, and the thing about God being our source is that he provides the resources. He provides all that we need. But when he is not in his rightful place in our hearts and in our lives, we are expecting others and other things to be our resource and to provide for us in a way that they never can or they never could. So God is our source, and God is the rock on which we stand. That when we have him as our foundation, that when we have things, they will grow and they will flourish and they will be fruitful, because they are rooted and grounded in the source. Our faith and our hearts are rooted and grounded in the source. It reminds me of the sermon that I preached on November 6th of November. And before I actually left Ohio to move to Chicago. And it's still such a blessing and such a surreal thing to think that, that was me up there, doing that. But it's all glory to God, truly, truly. But it reminds me of the sermon, because I was talking about how God is our firm foundation. And this goes along with this, because God is our rock, and our rock is a foundation. So in Matthew 7, verses 24 through 25, it talks about, therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. So the rock, the foundation, it in essence is the same. When we build our house on the rock that is Christ, building our house, which is our lives, then we will be wise. And when the storms of life come, which they will come, we will not be moved, because we are rooted and grounded in the rock. It says in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 11 through 14, for no other foundation can anyone lay than that which is laid. It's already laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now, if anyone builds on this foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become clear. For the day will declare it, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test each one's work for what sort it is. If anyone's work which he has built on endures, he will receive a reward. And if we build on a foundation that is not Christ, those works will perish, and they will be consumed by the fire, because only what we do for Christ will last. Only what we do for Christ will truly last. It is eternal, because everything that is connected with God is eternal. When we connect to the source that is Christ, then we become eternal. That our life is not just a life that we live here, but we have a life that goes beyond this world when we connect to the source. And when the way we connect to the source is believing on him, is believing that he is the Son of the living God. He hung, bled, and died for the sins of the whole world. And he resurrected from the grave. And he is sitting at the right hand of the Father, making intercession for us. He is our rock. And everything that we have, everything that we hope to be is to be through him. Everything is made by him, for him, and through him. And nothing that is made without him. So I encourage you, with all of that being said, that you would give your life to Christ. This was an encouragement to me this week because I needed to know, in the midst of my storms, in the midst of my circumstances, in the midst of my issues, all good things. I'm not saying that things are going wrong, because they're really not. Things couldn't be better. But in the transition, it's hard. There's a lot of things that try to take my attention. But I'm connected with the source. I'm connected with the one who has seen me through hell and high water. I am connected to the one who has kept me through all the triumphs, all the victories, all the failures, all the things in between. And he will continue to keep me, because not only does he love me, but because he has accepted me as his daughter. And I am connected with the source that all of my help comes from. So you may be going through things today that, just like I'm going through things, just as I'm getting used to being in a different place, away from family and all of these different things. But I'm so glad that I can still stand, because God is my source. God is where my help comes from. So with that, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and praise our Father in heaven. Amen.